I'm Loren Norris with Leadingleaderspodcast. And the question that I want to ask today is, where does leadership happen? Or where should leadership happen? Where do you lead? Are you waiting maybe to join the military, get the big job, get the label on your shirt, get all the degrees after your name so that your name looks like an alphabet? Is that what you're waiting for before you lead? Where should you lead? Where should you step up, take place, get busy leading? Well, I recently was listening to a gentleman that I think is a phenomenal communicator, and he made some good points about different levels of organizations and types of organizations. And one of the points he made was make sure that you understand what these organizations are all about before you lend your time, talent, treasure, and attention to their organization. I agree 100%. Now, I'm not telling you what to believe, and I'm not telling what you should support or not support. What I am going to say is where you lead is important. It's not just important that you do lead, it's important where you lead. Where do you give your talents? Where do you give your time? If you're making donations and contributions, where do you give your treasure? But also, where do you give your attention? What do you pay attention to? You know, it's altogether possible to be a part of an organization because it's got the right label, the right name, or maybe even because, like a fraternity or a sorority, it's going to boost your resume in the end. It's going to look really good to people down the road in posterity who can say, man, I'm so glad you were part of that organization. It tells me a lot about you. But there's also a risk in being affiliated with certain organizations when you believe on the face that you know what they're about, but you haven't done the homework to know what they're really about. If you don't know what they're really about and you're contributing your resources, your time, your talent, your treasure, and your attention, then you may be wasting those resources. I know that there are opportunities all over the place, and I know that some organizations, especially young organizations, are still trying to develop their purpose, their meaning, their vision statement. It's really hard on the surface, right up front, to know who they are, what they're about, why they do what they do. That's exactly the moment that you as a leader need to invest yourself in that organization and help them to find that vision. Before you pour a lot of time, talent, treasure, and attention in, know where they're going. And if they don't have a great sense of direction, help them to find one by pouring in your leadership. But let me tell you that leadership also happens in a different place. It happens wherever you are. Let me say that again more slowly. Leadership happens wherever you are. Whether you're going to the grocery store, pumping gas in your car, hanging out with your own kids, hanging out with somebody else's kids, sitting in the stadium at a kid's soccer game. Leadership happens wherever you are. As my mentor John Maxwell says, leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. When you're acting like a jerk in traffic, that's leadership, because you're influencing the thoughts and behavior of others. If you've got branding on the side of your vehicle or one of those stickers that says call 1-800-so-and-so and report my driving, you're a leader. If people recognize your car because it's a one-of-a-kind, I don't know, yellow Lamborghini or something, then the way you drive makes you a leader. Because wherever you are, that's where you lead. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you're influencing people around you. To have a good day, to have a bad day. To think positive things, to think negative things. The words coming out of your mouth, the gestures, the opening of the door or not, the slamming of the door in somebody's face, the taking of the last parking space, all of those are acts of leadership. See, most people don't think about that because they think when I take off the badge, when I step off the platform, when I walk out of the office, I take off the leadership coat, I'm all done with that. That is not true. If you are a person who influences others, then you are a leader everywhere you go. That means sitting around the dining room table at home. That means standing in line at the coffee shop or the doctor's office or the dentist's office or sitting in the stands at a soccer game. If you are a person of influence, everywhere you go, you influence people. The question now is, do you do it on purpose? And do you do it properly? if you're not intentional about the way that you lead, meaning you've already decided what your core values are, what your principles are, what the things are that you want to be on the tip of your tongue whenever you talk, the things that are going to drive other people's reactions about you. If you're not consciously aware of those things and intentionally preempting them in your own heart, in your own mind, in your own mouth, then what's going to happen is your natural reaction to something, good, bad, or otherwise, will be the declaration of your leadership. Take the time to decide, where will I lead? Where will I influence? How will I influence the people around me? And then invest yourself in that process to the degree that others know that whether they're sitting next to you in the coffee shop or standing next to you at the doctor's office, what they hear from you will be consistent with who you are. You've already decided what those core values are. You already decided what you stand for, what you represent, who you represent. Once you've determined those things, leading where you are is a whole lot easier. So where does leadership happen? How do you lead? Where do you lead? Where should you lead? Well, the answer to all of those is the same. Wherever you are. If you're at home with your kids, your spouse, if you're at work, if you're at church, if you're in a social setting, wherever you are, that's where you lead. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.